Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. From President Buhari withholding assent to the electoral bill for the fourth time to legal tussles on the propriety of nomination of party governorship candidates, the upcoming 2019 general election has been fraught with several legal issues. Joining us now to analyze them is law editor of ThisDay newspaper, Mrs. Onikepo Braithwaite. Good morning, Mrs. Braithwaite.
Morning.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm sorry, I have a cough.
Oh, sorry about that. Well, thank you for joining us, even with your cough.
Thank you.
So let's jump right in. Let's start with the electoral bill. A lot has been made about this amendment. There was so much excitement that we were going to actually formalize the use of card readers in particular. There are other issues like transmission of results, but it was really the card reader issue to legalize and formalize it once and for all. However, that effort has hit a roadblock with President Buhari withholding assent 4 times. The only option, as you're well aware, is for the National Assembly to get the numbers together and veto. They haven't done that thus far. What do you think is the significance? Do you feel safe as a voting Nigerian moving forward without this electoral amendment? Do you feel that we're going to have a plethora of cases as a result of this loophole, this little lacuna that we have now?
Well, most people are not aware that there was actually an amendment in 2015 to the Electoral Act, to Section 52, subsection 2, that previously prohibited the use of electronic voting. The Section 9 of the Amendment Act in 2015 amended Section 52 and allowed INEC to use any means it wants, it determines for elections. So electronic voting is also a means determined by INEC. So INEC can use electronic voting. Most people are not aware. There were a lot of authorities, cases, but it seems as if they were not aware that the act had actually been amended in 2015 to allow INEC to use any type of means it determines for voting.
INEC can use electronic card readers, yes, at this point, but it's not going to be uniform, especially because the last elections, there were problems with the use of card readers here, incident reports there, and the possibilities for rigging that it opens up. The whole point of this particular amendment that we're referring to is to close those loopholes.
But even that amendment itself is contradictory. I personally had issues with the way it was drafted, because it says that the amendment, the electronic voting shall be used or any other means. And when you say shall, that means it's mandatory.
Yes, it's a command.
So if you say it shall be used, then you can't say or any other means. It must be used. So maybe they should have actually redrafted it and said electronic voting shall be used, but there's a proviso that if it fails, because last election for me and many other people, our names had to go on a list. The machine failed.
Incident
So we had to do it manually. So I think that the thing should actually be redrafted. And say, you can use, it shall be used, but if it fails, and then maybe the machine malfunctions, there's no light, whatever it is, then there's a process for manual whatever. But now the electronic voting can be used.
But INEC is saying, sorry,
go ahead. No, go ahead.
Please. INEC has now issued guidelines saying that in lieu of the electoral bill sort of being stalled at the moment, their guidelines will come into force and that they will not use incident report forms. So it's all going to be card readers. How practical is this? And does it open an avenue for all the results to be contested?
No, that is a very strange thing, because the machines are faulty. I just told you the last election, it couldn't read my finger. So I couldn't be accredited electronically. So you're going to disenfranchise so many people if you insist. I don't know the kind of machines that we use in Nigeria. Because even Accra, there, when you go to the airport, you thumbprint, you go. When you go to America, you thumbprint to enter. But in Nigeria, it seems as if we use substandard machines. Because even with the passport, I had problems. The passport. Eventually, they had to do it some other way because you couldn't read my fingerprint. Likewise, the BVN as well.
Correct.
So there will be a lot of people that will not be able to vote because the machine will fail.
Well, INEC is assuring us that the machine is working.
How can anybody give you 100% assurance? There will always be the failure. And it was in my polling station, there was a lot of failure. There were a lot of us that couldn't be accredited.
Saying that the Electoral Act is the legal framework to conduct the elections, do you think that there's no cause for alarm? Because the opposition People's Democratic Party and some other vested interest groups have said we cannot have a free and fair elections if you do not sign this into law. But as an extant law, do you think that they have a case?
I don't really know what the big deal is, whether the electoral, I really don't know how it will affect either way. Because what could have affected was the sequence, which has since been dropped. That's not part of it anymore. So I don't really see the importance of whether, I just think that it's politicking. Because even now, the same people that are shouting that he hasn't signed, they are the same people that amended it in 2015, and now they're amending it a different way. So why didn't they do that amendment in 2015? So I don't know, but I don't really think that it's, here or there.
So it serves no real practical purpose in terms of conducting free and fair elections?
I don't. If it's the issue of card reader, they can use it. But they cannot say that and it doesn't say that if you use the card reader, you cannot use manual. It says any means to be determined by an INEC. But there has to be provision for failure, that if the machine doesn't work, that people can vote manually. You can't say that you're going to use it. Okay, fine, if it works, and we can all use it. But if it doesn't, you cannot say that I can't vote. I'm 80. I have my PVC or whatever it is, and your machine has failed. So I think that there must be an alternative to the machine because, from what we've seen from past election, you cannot bank on Nigerian machines.
Now, if we take a look at the legal implications of eternal wranglings in the parties, let's start with APC in particular, because they've been in the news quite a bit. First of all, there are quite a few aggrieved APC members saying that they won their primaries or their names were substituted. Issues like this happen. In the event that this does not get resolved internally before the general elections and we go to the polls with the wrong name on the list, how many Rotimi Amechi situations do you see happening where Rotimi Amechi took his case all the way to the Supreme Court and was eventually installed by the court as governor of Rivers State? Is this going to repeat itself in 2019?
Well, what everybody's saying is that, we should look at our electoral process. It's only in Nigeria that, you spend, I'm sure they still have cases from 2015 election, and we're going to the 2019 whatever. The problem really is that there's no internal democracy in these parties. Everybody is almost like, I have been governor, so my child, feudal system. So the internal system itself is bad. Then in terms of, they say it's the party that wins the case, the seats.
Yes.
So I guess if the court decides like Amechi and that is what the authority is for now, then, whoever it is that the court at the end of the day, or the Supreme Court declares the winner or whatever, whether based on Amechi, if that is still the authority that is standing, will be the candidate.
They'll be substituted.
Indeed, at the last count, just recently, the president of the Court of Appeal, Justice Zainab Bukar-Chua, said there were 730 cases that came to the Court of Appeal from the 2015 elections. With all of this happening, do you see those numbers perhaps declining or tripling? I mean, there's so much legal tussle going on within parties, not just the APC. We have the Social Democratic Party, SDP. We have the People's Democratic Party in various states. With all of this happening, and of course, parties insisting that the Electoral Act should guide these elections, the Electoral Act 2010 should be amended to 2015. Do you see these numbers tripling or declining?
Same question that you asked before. If the system, our system is bad, so I don't see it declining. You can see within parties. We didn't even used to have it so bad. You know, practically almost every local government, everybody's saying, no, it's my seat. No, you know, you put the wrong person. Everybody's in court. But we need to look at our process, our electoral process, even within the party structure. You know what I mean?
So it's a function of the political parties playing their role and not so much of INEC?
Not playing their role. Not playing their role, you know, trying to, you know, I mean, look at what is happening in Ogun State, for instance, or Imo State, where, you know, the man wants to insist that his son-in-law
becomes the next governor.
Yeah, becomes the next governor. You know, if there's no internal democracy and it's not done properly, and our things are not done properly, we're going to end up in court. I don't really see any reduction. I see more cases because the APC, for instance, all their primaries were contentious. There were problems everywhere. You know, they say they don't have a candidate in Zamfara, in Rivers, you know what I mean? Even in Lagos, you know, so I see more cases.
Now, going back to the internal structure of the parties, with the APC primaries and then more recently SDP, the question has arisen, what takes precedent? The party's constitution or internal structure or the law of the land? Because with the APC, aggrieved members went to court. APC's party machinery threatened them with expulsion from the party, that they should not have gone to court. They should have been satisfied by the internal dispute resolution mechanisms of the party. The president waded in and reaffirmed the right of any aggrieved Nigerian to take legal action. In SDP, you had a situation where Donald Duke won the presidential primary by around 200 votes, only for a court to award his mandate to Jerry Garner, because that was a breach of the Constitution, which holds that the party chairman and the presidential candidate cannot come from the same zone. Donald Duke is contesting this, he's appealing this decision, saying that his rights as a Nigerian will be infringed, that he has a right under the Constitution to run, and the Constitution overrides his party's constitution. What is the legal perspective on this?
Well, the bottom line is, the Constitution of our country is supreme. But when you join a body, an organization, you submit yourself to their rules. So maybe Donald Duke should have dropped SDP the moment he saw that the chairman is
from the same region.
From the same region or from the South, and he's from the South. Because, you know, every organization or body has its rules. The Constitution is supreme, but the Constitution does not say that. The Constitution, of course, Section 42 or whatever, talks about discrimination and all that, but it's not, you can't twist it to mean that, you know, it doesn't come into play here. The Constitution of their party and their rules and regulations or whatever comes into play. So if they say you can't have the Southern chairman and the Southern presidential candidate, you could have gone to OOP or some other party. You know, like I'm a lawyer, I cannot say that I'm going to court and I'm going to wear this dress because we have our way of dressing to go to court. So you submit yourself to the rules of. So in essence, the courts cannot choose the candidate. They're not supposed to. They're not supposed to. But bottom line is that when you're a member of a group or whatever it is, you follow the rules. So I don't know whether, one can never say, I'm not a judge, but I think maybe the party has a strong case, the SDP.
Okay. But what are the legal implications for INEC going into these elections, really, with cases like this?
Well, INEC...
I mean, there are several of them. In Ogun State, we also have the Kashamu versus Adebutu for the PDP, and so many other states, even in Rivers and Delta states with other parties. What are the legal implications for INEC, who's conducting these elections?
INEC always shouts from the rooftop that they go with court orders, that they don't go, so whatever the court decides, so they have no interest, in who is running. Theirs is just to carry out what the court decision, So, I don't think it will affect their work either way.
All right, let's talk about the free, fair elections that Buhari has been going on about, and even the peace accord that was recently signed by all the presidential candidates. Now, what is that document, and should that document really does it hold waters in any way? And should it have a legislative backing or anything like that?
Well, I already think we have enough laws in Nigeria. But I don't even know whether it will hold water, because even the laws that we have, they don't obey them. Government agencies themselves are the biggest, what do you call it? They don't, take for example, saying
they don't obey court orders?
They don't obey court orders. So, if they don't obey court, why, if you sign a peace accord, so what? I don't really think, I think it's neither here nor there. And then the police should sign.
The police should sign. Yeah.
They didn't call all those people to sign, because they are the ones that have been accused of unleashing violence or whatever it is, So, but I don't think, I think it's neither here nor there. We have a lot of laws that just seem to be there for decoration, the statute book. So I don't...
So whether or not they put it into law, it still wouldn't matter, is what you're saying?
I don't really think so.
Okay.
I don't really think so. All right. Because people are going to be violent if they want to be, if their candidate doesn't win. So some peace accord, the grassroots guy here in Mushin or wherever it is, does not know anything about any peace accord and doesn't care about it. You know what I mean? So anybody can, I don't think it matters. I don't think it matters.
What do you think will happen to voters that would be disenfranchised, like you have just mentioned, rightfully so, that maybe the card readers will not work? What would be their position when something like that happens? They're not...
Well, you can go to court. If they force us to use the card reader and it doesn't work, I'm going to go to court and say I was disenfranchised. Because you must always have an alternative. Because nothing is foolproof. No, it's even with your ATM card.
Correct.
Or your POS. You go somewhere, you put it in, and it's embarrassing.
But even when you go to court and the results have been read and everything's been gone through, so what would happen? I mean, what difference would it make?
If you go to court?
Yes.
You can get a recount.
So let's look at
if you go to court and say I've been disenfranchised or whatever it is, well, everybody has the right to vote. What if it's a class action? What if other people want to join me? What if there's so many of us?
Yes.
You know what I mean? All over Nigeria. You know what I mean? And our numbers are so many that it will make a difference or whatever it is to the results, not just me. Yes, it could mean something. Maybe the court may rule that they should in our own polling unit or whatever, that they should, or in those various polling units. Because the Constitution says we're all, once you're 18 and you're registered, you're entitled to vote.
Okay.
Let's look at the role of the judiciary in all of this. Election tribunals and the courts themselves. We've seen a case in Ogun State referring again to the PDP. The Federal High Court the Court of Appeal had said the Federal High Court, did not have any responsibility, calling a candidate from the proceedings, and so declared it null and void, and said the Federal High Court erred in that decision. But let's look at the wider picture here, the role of the judiciary in the elections. You are the law editor for ThisDay. How much of a role do they really play, and should they be playing going into this election? Let's not also forget, some months back, the Federal High Court asked its judges not to give ex parte motions to candidates.
Yes, because we have the principle of fair hearing, and an ex parte order is not something that lasts in perpetuity. You apply to have it within 7 days or something to have it lifted, or it discharges itself. But the principle of, because at the end of the day, when it comes to political issues, the two parties have to be heard. So it's best that it's done on notice, and everybody has the benefit of stating their case, and then you make a decision. Because, it brings more confusion. So I can understand why he's saying so. Obviously, in other instances, maybe marine cases, some urgency or whatever it is, you need to get an ex parte, whatever. But for political, it's different. Because the two parties, you have to hear them. So it's just like delaying the inevitable. So you might as well put everybody on notice, let them hear you, and let them decide. So I think probably it's a good decision.
Well, thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure to have you here, really.
Thank you.